Hello, I'm Harry Belafonte. From Africa and Spain to Cuba to the United States, the migration of Latin music is a story of survival and triumph. In this program, we will see how funky traditional African and Spanish roots produced new branches and buds in the United States, and how this music has enriched American culture. Queens, New York. In a former German beer garden, Cuban Americans celebrate their cultural roots at an annual get-together.
Well, this is Melba Alvarado. I'm the secretary of the Club Cubano Interamericano. This club was founded in 1945 in New York City, and it so happens that for 14 years now we have been giving this festival. This festival has a lot of memories for the people that come from Cuba. People come from Boston, people come from Detroit, people come from Los Angeles, people come from Miami. They come here for this festival. Everybody that has some memories of good music and good dancing comes in here. And not only Cubans, Americans, Puerto Ricans, everyone that hear of this festival, they come because they say they even like to come to see the people dance.
For generations, Cubans used to gather regularly in the lush and exotic tropical beer gardens in Havana. The Mamacillo dance, named for a small tropical fruit, celebrates these popular gatherings. Like this little bit of Cuba, transplanted in Queens, the rhythmic roots of Cuban music continue to grow, contributing to the diversity that makes American culture so strong and special. The rhythmic power of Cuban music first took Americans by storm when the tango craze swept across the country in 1913. This sensuous dance was based on a Cuban rhythm, the habanera. While the roots of the tango are Cuban, this dance evolved in Argentina and was refined in Europe. It was introduced in New York by the dance team Vernon and Irene Castle. The Castles taught the tango at so-called tea dances, where more than tea was served. Self-appointed guardians of American morality denounced the Castles for promoting nauseating revels and dances of the brothel. But the Castles fought back. They claimed the tango was healthy for the soul as well as the spine. The controversy made the tango even more popular. Soon, Americans across the country were undulating to the new dance. Americans tangoed right into the 1920s. While Latin lovers and Spanish dancers dazzled the silent screen, cinema pianists across the country introduced Latin and American musical blends to millions of filmgoers. On a beautiful spring day in 1930, a Cuban immigrant, Don Aspiazu, introduced New York audiences to a Cuban dance orchestra with an authentic rhythm section and an exhibition rumba dance team. RCA quickly signed Aspiazu to record the group's most popular tune, El Manicero, the peanut vendor. But the record company feared it would be too strange for American tastes and delayed its release. When RCA finally marketed the record 7 months later, it became the hit that launched the rumba craze.
Stay and have a bite with me.
I couldn't.
Are you sure?
Very sure.
Let's dance.
Oh, do you think if you ask me while we're dancing, you'll have better luck?
Let's try.
Riding the rumba wave to the peak of its popularity was another immigrant from Cuba, Xavier Cugat, the first Latin musician to gain mass popularity in the United States.
I'd like to present to you my boys playing Gypsy Mambo. This is a combination of flamenco and afro-cuban. And we featured, well, a bunch of foreigners. You know, they don't speak English so good, you know. All right, boys.
Born in Spain and raised in Cuba, Cugat was a prodigy who began to play for money in Havana Nickelodeon when he was a child, as he told an interviewer for Spanish television.
Mira, cuando tenía yo ya 8 años, yo tocaba en el cine mudo. Precisamente era un trío. Moisés Simón, el compositor del Manicero, tocaba el piano, una batería y yo el violín. Y seguíamos las películas, que una escena de amor, empezamos con la viuda alegre, suavecito, falso, que salían los indios, comenzamos, tan, taran, a los 8 años.
In 1915, when Cugat's father was forced out of business, the family left for New York. Hoping for a career as a classical musician, Cugat studied the violin seriously in New York and then in Berlin.
Yo toda mi vida, hasta los 25 años, para mí no existía más que Bach, Beethoven y Brahms. Yo desayunaba con Beethoven, almorzaba con Chopin y me acostaba con Tchaikovsky.
Cugat managed to arrange 2 Carnegie Hall concerts. The public liked him, but the critics were lukewarm. Cugat was crushed.
Y abandoné la música clásica y me dediqué a la caricatura. Y fui caricaturista del Times. Chaplin estaba haciendo una película, Las luces de la ciudad. Y una noche dice, mira, trae tu violín y trae a tu acompañante a mi casa en Beverly Hills y vamos a tocar diferentes melodías, a ver si encuentran. Y empezamos a tocar cosas, saltamos de una danza húngara a un vals vienés y todo eso. Y de repente yo toqué la melodía de la violetera y dice, ¡uy! Esto es lo que quiero. Y esa fue la melodía de la luz de la ciudad. Que cuando usted vea la película, el violín solo es el violín mío. Y ahí de casualidad encontré a Valentino, y fue Valentino que me dijo, hombre, organízame una orquesta para tocar para mí, que voy a hacer una película, Los 4 jinetes de Blasco Ibáñez. Y voy a bailar un tango, organízame una orquestita de tango. Y le organicé una orquesta de tango, y de ahí empecé, luego con la música tropical.
Cugat discovered that he could earn a living playing in Hollywood nightclubs. He quickly formed a group called Cugat and the Gigolos, which opened at the famed Coconut Grove, playing a version of the music he had grown up with as a child in Cuba.
Amigos, ahora vamos a tocar para ustedes una nueva rumba guaracha que se titula La Bomba de Brooklyn, The Bombshell from Brooklyn. You know, I've been practicing on my accent so much that it's becoming perfect.
Al americano no le entraba la música tropical, no la sentía. Yo dije, ¿cómo lo vamos a hacer? Dije, pues poniendo una chica bien guapa delante de la orquesta.
She's a bombshell from the Pampers. She's a lady who has been through the mill. Just a bombshell from Brooklyn and not from Brazil.
Proclaimed the king of the rumba, Cugat gained national fame through a series of coast-to-coast broadcasts and over 200 record releases during the next 10 years. By the end of the 40s, Cugat had accomplished what few Latin artists had been able to achieve. In his own words, I know what the public likes in music, a smooth, stimulating, melodic blend of Latin American music. That is Cugat. With Cugat leading the way in the 1940s, Hollywood went Latin in dozens of films.
I wonder why does everybody look at me and then begin to talk about the Christmas tree. I hope that means that everyone is glad to see the lady in the tutti frutti hat. The gentlemen, they want to make me say, see, but I don't tell them that. I tell them yes, sirree. And maybe that is why they comport dates to me, the lady in the tutti frutti hat.
During World War II, the good neighbor policy and the search for open markets turned North America's attention to South America. Musicians, Hollywood stars, and artists were sent south to cement good relations. While Latin music was achieving a wide popular success in the mass media, another blending of American jazz with more authentic Latin music was taking place. The Cuban-born band leader Machito and his brother-in-law Mario Bauza introduced jazz arrangements into Latin music, setting a torrid pace, which other musicians were quick to notice, among them Dizzy Gillespie.
I've been interested in Cuban music since like 1938, because they had some bands used to come in the Savoy Ballroom, and they let me sit in, play. So I've been with it, and when I was getting ready to organize my big band, I consulted Mario. I said, Mario, man, I want one of those guys that play them tom-tom things, I didn't even know the name of this thing. And Mario said, I got the guy just for you, but he doesn't speak English. I said, So Mario came by my house. I was living at 2040 7th Avenue, and took me down into the Spanish Harlem to Chano's house. And Chano was there with his lady, and then we sat down and talked. And so he said, yeah, I want to join the band in Spanish, whatever that was. So Channel came with me, and Channel was funny, man. He understood a lot of English, but he couldn't speak it. So somebody asked him one time, say, "Hey, Channel, how do you communicate with Dizzy? You don't speak Spanish, you don't speak." He said, Dixie no pigi pani, no speak English, but bo, we speak Africa. You know, so that's how we came together. And all of us, Channel had that whole band speaking broken English. The whole band.
Chano Pozo was born in 1915 in former slave quarters in a poor district in Havana. By the time he was a teenager, he was a famous rumbero and street fighter. He spent his days hanging out in the courtyard, drumming, chanting, composing songs, chasing women, and getting in frequent brawls with his rivals. Chano's songs earned him local fame in the 30s when they won top cash prizes in Carnival. Casino review dancers sought him out to do choreography for their shows. Chano became a celebrity. When Chano heard that his compositions were popular in New York, he moved there. After joining Dizzy Gillespie's band, he became a favorite with audiences. He would strip to the waist and oil his body to perform long drum solos.
And boy, he killed it. And he was on the stage. He was on the stage with this drum around him like this. And he was into it. He was singing and playing and dancing at the same time. This guy could sing one thing, dance another thing, and play another thing at the same time. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. But anyway, he was doing this. He was into it, and he was looking like he was, like he was looking for the gods or something. I want to say.
It took a while for Chano to fit into the jazz band. After he had recorded several albums and played before awestruck audiences, he felt right at home and started bringing Dizzy his compositions.
The Chano came to me we were out in California, and he said, "I got the ID, man." I said, "Yeah?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Barrel, bass." He said he played boom, 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 boom. Now this is the first time in jazz that the bass player wasn't playing boom, 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 boom. It's the first time, because I hadn't heard none of the bass, all the bass players were talking about boom, 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 boom. So Chano said, the bass player, first, power, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And he said, saxophone, boom, bing, boom, bing, boom, bing, me, boom, bing, boom, bing. Right, as he talked, I don't know this kind of trombone, boom, 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 boom. Know this kind of trombone, boom, 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 boom. Boom, trumpet, boom, ping, boom, ping, ah, boom, ping, boom, ping, bah, boom, boom. So we had this rhythm going. So now, when I looked at these different parts on the thing that I'd written, I said, wait a minute now, we need something else. We need harmony. But it wasn't complete. It wasn't complete harmonically. It was just lots of rhythm, and it was going. So I say to myself, you must do something to make harmony in this. So and then I wrote this bridge. Da 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 da. And then we took this thing that we'd written, that I'd written, to Gil Fuller. Miguel Fuller was the arranger, and we gave it to him, and he blew it up. And he blew it up magnificently. And so that's how Manteca came about. It was similar to a nuclear weapon when it burst on the scene. They'd never seen a marriage of Cuban music and American music like that before.
In 1948, Dizzy's big band made numerous recordings and toured Europe and the States. But Chano didn't like touring the segregated South.
Traveling in the South at that time was very, very difficult for us because we couldn't stand in the white hotels. We had to stay in these little raggedy hotels down in the colored neighborhood. So, and we couldn't stop. We'd stop and couldn't go to the bathroom and everything.
During one concert tour of the South, Chano's drums were stolen. He returned to New York to buy new drums, and he decided not to rejoin the band until it returned. While waiting, Chano hung out, got high, played drums, and chased women as usual. When he thought a dope dealer named Cabito had cheated him, he tracked Cabito down and beat him up. The next day, in the El Rio bar in Harlem, Chano put a coin in the jukebox, punched up Manteca, and began to dance. Cabito came into the bar and, without saying a word, gunned Chano down. As Chano lay mortally wounded, his life slipping away on the barroom floor, Manteca finished playing on the jukebox. In the decades that followed, Chano's legacy kept growing as dozens of groups popularized Latin jazz, led by Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Bird, George Shearing, Lorendo Almeida, Stan Kenton, Mongo Santamaria, Armando Perezza, and Cal Jada. Back in Cuba, the fusion of American jazz and popular music has produced highly accomplished and world-renowned groups like Iriqueri.
El grupo Iriqueri es popular por muchas razones, ¿no? Es el ponerse en contacto con lo que baila el público cuando se trata de música bailable. Y tratar de hacer con eso una música que sea popular, que sea pegajosa y que la gente la pueda bailar.
Todo el mundo cantando así, cantando así, bailando así, guarachando así. Todo el mundo viene cumbachando. Todo el mundo así, bailando así. De manera de bailar, de manera de gozar, con esa niña ella quiere bailar. Todo el mundo bailando así. Vamos a bailar, ¿cómo vamos a gozar? Todo el mundo viene guarachando. Ah, pa' que tú llames tanta, que ahorita me da mamá. La borracha cojo, con su machete en la mano. Cosita rica de comida.
The irrepressible rhythms of Cuba also reached a wide audience in the United States through television.
They call me Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. When I play the maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom.
Les Yanez was central to that process as a performer in front of the cameras, and later as a powerful creative force behind them. Desde Rio, Alberto Arnez Ibeacha was born into a wealthy family. His father was mayor of Santiago, Cuba's second largest city. Dizzy grew up with all the privileges of his class. But in 1933, when the dictator Machado was overthrown in a week of revolutionary violence, an angry mob burned and sacked the Arnez home. The family fled to Miami, penniless. There were few Cubans in Miami then, and the family had to rebuild their lives from the ground up. At 16, Dizzy worked a variety of jobs while he and his father lived in an old warehouse. Dizzy learned how to play the guitar and drums to earn money, over his father's objections. He started a rumba band, the Siboney Septet, to take advantage of the new dance craze. Xavier Cugat spotted Dizzy in Miami and gave him his first big break. But on opening night, Dizzy discovered his musicians knew nothing about Latin music. Dizzy had a sudden inspiration. He remembered Carnival in Santiago. He taught the band the conga right on the spot, and before long, another dance craze was sweeping the country. The conga craze carried Dizzy Arnez to Broadway and to Hollywood. In 1940, he met Lucille Ball.
If you're having trouble, follow my advice. Let a conga brother break the ice. That means I love you.
Television executives at first refused to let a Cuban immigrant with an accent play Lucy's husband. But soon, every Monday night across America, tens of millions of people gathered in front of their TV sets to watch Ricky and Lucy Ricardo.
What did we say? What did we say?
Not here, please.
Through radio, movies, television, Latin music progressively became part of mainstream popular culture. Then in the 1950s, following on the heels of the tango, the rumba, and the conga, another rhythmic tidal wave, the mambo.
Even the records say, what the heck is the mambo? And we know from your letters that you would like to learn the mambo if it didn't take too long and you could do it at home. Well, my husband says that he can teach you the foundation step of the dance in less than a minute. So here is your teacher, Arthur Murray.
As Americans across the country began to move their bodies in new ways, they got swept up in the biggest dance craze of all, the cha-cha-cha. The 3-2 beat of the 1-2 cha-cha-cha quickly became part of America's new music, rock and roll. While the clave beat popped up from time to time in rock and roll, and performers such as Cugat and Dizzy Gillespie popularized Latin music, the true innovators of the Latin sound have remained relatively unknown. Such is the case with Arsenio Rodriguez, sometimes known as the father of salsa. Arsenio was born into a poor family of 16 children in Matanzas, Cuba. When he was 9 years old, a horse kicked him in the head and he went blind. An uncle taught the blind boy to play the drums, and Arsenio quickly picked up the guitar. When the family moved to a neighborhood in Havana, renowned for its musicians, Arsenio felt at home. But his real base of support came from black Cubans who responded to his strong African rhythms and his cry for justice and equality. Arsenio was popular on the radio and played in the casinos, but he became fed up with the racism and corruption in Cuba. He decided to seek better opportunities in the U.S. He also came with hopes that his sight could be restored by an operation. When he arrived in the U.S., immigration officials harassed Arsenio as a so-called communist Negro because he had played on a radio station identified with revolutionaries in Cuba. When he played southern cities like Tampa, Florida, he had to stay in segregated hotels. Then he learned that his blindness was incurable. Arsenio died in poverty in 1970 as the sound he originated, salsa, was gaining popularity through the success of such musicians as Tito Puente, Johnny Pacheco, Willie Colon, and the Palmieri brothers.
Y ahora enseguidamente quiero con mucho orgullo y una satisfacción personal, quiero que ustedes la traigan con un aplauso bien grande, nuestra reina de la salsa, Celia Cruz.
Voy a cantarle a mi tierra, Cuba, Pinar del Río, Habana, Matanzas, Santa Clara, Camagüey y Oriente.
Today we honor Celia Cruz for her outstanding achievements in the recording industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly welcome to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Miss Celia Cruz. rise to worldwide fame seems to have been taken from a classic movie script. Celia grew up in what she called the poor part of Havana in a household of 14 children.
I was the oldest, and I was the one who, about 6 or 7, I sat in a rocking chair, and I wanted to go to sleep, they go to sleep. And I began to sing with all my voice, something like this. Duerme, duerme mientras yo te arrullaré con el hechizo de esta canción que para ti canté. And the people in the neighborhood come to the door, and they don't sleep. And I was mad because I don't want anybody there. But my cousin Seraphine, he thought, oh, she can attract people to listen to her. So he was the one who took me to the radio station. That's why I am a singer now, because I like it to sing, but I didn't know that I had that voice or that attraction for the people. I keep going to the radio station, going to a theater, going to everywhere that people can see me and listen to me. My father doesn't want me to be a singer because they think that the women in the show business are not a good woman. And my mother told to my father, you know, Simon was the name of my father. She's a good girl. You have to permit her to do that because she likes that. And then when somebody knows Celia Cruz in Cuba, my father was proud of me. I began to make record with Sonora Matancera in 1951. And my first record was the hit in Cuba. But I left Cuba because I don't like the government in Cuba. I don't like the communism. And at that time, I knew that my music have another name, salsa. So I went into the salsa. But salsa is not a new rhythm. It's the Cuban music with a new name. Salsa, I think that salsa never die, like Celia Cruz. Never die, and we have to support the salsa. That's why I never going to sing nothing but salsa. And I say to all my friend who sing and play salsa, don't leave the salsa. Don't leave the salsa because it's our culture, and salsa is a very happy rhythm. It's a rich rhythm.
Today, many Hispanic musicians are trying to reach out to English audiences while remaining true to their musical and cultural roots. For Ruben Blades, the political and social dimensions of his music are as important as the melodies and rhythms. Spanish poetic origins and traditions of the Cuban trova resonate in his work.
Título del trabajo, Buscando América. Estoy llamando a América, pero no me responde. Han desaparecido los que niegan la verdad. Envueltos entre sombras, digamos lo que es cierto. Mientras no haya justicia, jamás tendremos paz. Viviendo dictaduras, te busco y no te encuentro. Tu torturado cuerpo no saben dónde está.
So the idea of Buscando America is to search for that America that must have been in the back of the mind of Columbus and all the adventurers that went with him, because the idea behind the trip, I think, was to find a new place, a new land for a new beginning. And we're still looking for America today. You know, we found the continent, but we didn't find the emotion behind. Music itself and songs are not going to change things, but in Latin America today, in a Latin America that is struggling in so many different fronts, politically, economically, socially, it's a great way of making people also feel less lonely.
El padre Antonio Tejera vino de España buscando nuevas un, dos, tres. Del padre Antonio y su monaguillo Andrés. Suenan las campanas otra vez. Del padre Antonio y su monaguillo Andrés. Y al padre lo halló la guerra un domingo en misa, dando la comunión en manga y camisa. En medio del Padre Nuestro entró el matador y sin confesar su culpa le disparó. Antonio cayó hostia en mano y sin saber por qué. Andrés se murió a su lado sin conocer a Pelé. Y entre el grito y la sorpresa, agonizando otra vez, estaba el Cristo de palo pegado a la pared. Nunca se supo el criminal quién fue. El padre Antonio y su monaguillo Andrés.
I don't believe that the mission of the artist today is only to entertain and to bring a way of escape reality. I think that we're so near the end, the possible end, that we need every available person that has any measure of authority or power to bring about an idea, to get out and do it.
Por un cura bueno, de Arnulfo Romero, de la libertad, por mi América.
Well, the roots of rhythm have taken us from Africa and Spain to Cuba to the United States. Today, the music belongs to the world. At the heart of this ongoing odyssey of Latin music, flowing across borders and continents, across ideologies and religions, is a search by artists and musicians to express and communicate that which is most human. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May your roots of rhythm bring you knowledge and joy.